Hello everybody and welcome to Chair League. I am your host Jason here for another triple header of Chair League matches tonight. This is going to be an awesome Chair League night as always. Starting off with this Division 2 match, we got Deathbots versus Reborn Knights. Both of these guys ready and raring to go here in their first matches of this Chair League season number 4. And here we go. Battlefield of Eternity. These guys are ready to go. This is going to be Reborn Knights map pick, so of course Deathbots are going to have first pick, first ban. So let's jump right into it. What heroes do you want on Battlefield of Eternity? Easy answer. It's a very straightforward map. You want PvE heroes that are good at doing PvE damage, but also decent in terms of putting together a team that can team fight, because inevitably you will end up in a big battle somewhere in the middle of this map that could literally last an eternity. That's why they call it Battlefield of Eternity. Tassadar going to be the first ban. That's a very interesting ban to start out here. We don't see a lot of TAS bans in non-competitive, like non-pro play. But Deathbolts are saying, what the heck, we're going to go ahead and throw out Tassadar and just get him out of here, which might foreshadow maybe they want to play a little something that's got a little bit of stealth in it, maybe? Maybe a little stealth? Maybe a little stealth? I don't know, I gotta do the Stewie thing, that's fine. Artanis is a hero that a lot of people lately have been prioritizing, particularly on this map, due to the fact that at level 1 he's got that amateur opponent that can just rip apart these immortals. But we do see the Rag ban coming out. Ragnaros also very good in the meta right now. That Sulfurish Smash is just not fair. And Thrall coming out for the side of Deathbolts. And the instant response, we're going to see Vala and Rhaegar, two very good heroes for the map. So yet again, you know, Reborn Knights, they got to pick their map, so I think they have an idea of what they want already. Vala has a particular build on this map. It's the Q build that just does a ton of damage to the Immortal. It can just chunk that thing down like crazy. Rhaegar also can go into Lightning Bond at level 1, which can give him a lot of extra damage, where he can put a Lightning Shield on a friend and he gets an untalented version of his own Lightning Shield to deal a lot of extra damage to that Immortal. Malfurion and Johanna are going to be the pickups here. So we do see Johanna occasionally on this map. Very good at stalling, very good at, you know, getting that blind out to be able to prevent damage to your own Immortal. But not really all that great a contributor to damage to the opponent's Immortal. Malfurion's not a bad healer for it. The sustained healing that Malfurion can give can do wonders for you in these long bouts in the mid. And he's also got decent wave clear and can take that Moonburn talent at level 1 to also get some extra damage out on the Immortal. Li Ming going to be the ban out here. So Li Ming has a couple of builds that are pretty good as well. Good poke. And that's a lot of what you want here is good poke damage. A good melee hero like Artanis or Thrall that can chunk down the Immortal is good. But at the end of the day, if they have to walk away and they can't get any free damage out, then your opponent can just defend. And taking a fight, taking a 5v5 team fight on your opponent's Immortal is usually not a good idea. The stuns are going everywhere. And that Immortal will help them in trying to win that team fight. So you want somebody that can poke so you can just walk away. You can just try to find an angle to get a little bit of damage in. Force your opponent to at least send 1 or 2 people back to the other team's Immortal. But we do see the Artanis hover here for the side of Deathbolts. So they're looking at banning the Artanis. I think that's a pretty good pick. Reborn Knights doesn't have their frontliner yet. Clearly, they're already looking for immortal damage with Vala and Rhaegar. Right now, they're winning the fight 2v3, I think. So that's not good. And we are going to see Tyrael and Zarya. So Zarya has pretty good poke damage. Also can have pretty good immortal damage if she can get that energy built up for herself. Tyrael, of course, a pretty decent damage dealer for a frontline tank. In that role, he's probably one of the highest damage overall. Also has good zoning tools, good escapability, a little bit of poke damage as well. So overall, just a solid pick. Sanctification probably going to be coming in here in a big way to be able to control those points. You can mount a really good defense with Tyrael and that Sanctification, and the Holy Ground at level 16 can also be a really big deal. Not too many mercenary camps on this map for him to really take advantage of that steal potential, but he does have... there are a lot of little avenues that you can use to cut off your opponent's escape exits with that Holy Wrath, so that might be what they're looking for here. 2 more picks coming for Deathbots. Still need a couple of backline damage dealers, if you ask me. Sure enough, we're going to see Lunara and Falstad. So 2 really good heroes for the map yet again. Both teams really displaying that they have a good understanding of how this map works and which heroes to be prioritized. Lunara has good, solid PvE damage, especially at level 7. She gets a nice boost from Nature's Calling. Falstad, you know, he's got decent poke from a distance. Can always throw that hammering in to try and get some extra damage. He's definitely got decent damage on the Immortal. And most importantly, he's got that global presence. You can go up, you can soak, you can clear a camp if something's pushing in your way, and then you can quickly rotate down to the Immortals. So I can definitely see where Deathbolts is going with this. Good solid comp for them. You got the 2 frontliners, good sustained healer. Meanwhile, on the other, and then of course the 2 backline damage. Meanwhile, on the other side, the side of Reborn Knights, they really could still use some sort of backline damage. Zarya kind of counts for that. So some people play Zarya like a backline carry. Some people play it more like a frontline tank. You know, it's kind of, she kind of fills multiple roles. So they are going to choose to interpret Zarya as more of a backline damage dealer. They're going to go with the Sonya up front. Sonya's new changes, we've been seeing a little bit more of her, a little bit of a revitalization in this format, where we really just didn't see Sonya for a long time there after she got nerfed. So interesting. I'll tell you, I think the race is definitely going to be won head-to-head by Reborn Knights here, but it's not by a lot. Both of them have good solid damage. A lot of it has to do with Glover on that Zarya. If Zarya can keep that energy stacked high, and well, we'll see how these teams do. You know, I do like the CC potential over on the side of Deathbolts. I feel like they have the opportunity to try and catch somebody out and take them down here. Sonya, let's see which ultimate they go with. That leap can be very devastating. The team, if there is one weakness on the side of Deathbolts, I would say that their team a little bit squishy. They're pretty good at poke damage, though. Every single hero, other than their tank Johanna, really does have the ability to get some poke damage onto that Immortal. So they don't have to be super aggro with it, you know? Gotta count for something here. As we are loading in here on Battlefield Eternity, first you've got your team on the left. Zodiac going to be playing Falstad. Ouroboros is going to be playing Lunara. Belus going to be playing Johanna. Billy Fish on Thrall. And Kale is going to be playing Malfurion. This is Deathbolts. On the right, you have Reborn Knights. It's going to be Frask on Vala. Crafty Devil is going to be playing Tyrael. Glover on Zarya. Subway Slayer is going to be playing Sonya. And Zedok is going to be playing Rhaegar. This is Reborn Knights. And instantly, 5-man rotation here. They are looking for a gank. They're looking for a sloppy rotation. Is Reborn Knights here. They are going to be scouted out, though, by this Wisp. Lunara are going to go ahead and say hello from a distance there, rather than doing the good old face check into those bushes, into those steam vents. Druins will give a little bit of a hint, at least, to where Deathbolts is not. And ultimately, we're going to see the 2 solo laners in the top. It's going to be Sonya versus Thrall as these two go head-to-head. 4-man rotations to the bot as these two teams start to poke away at each other a little bit. We are going to see that Q build coming out from Vala, so we're gonna be keeping an eye on exactly how well Fresk can be really puncturing down these Immortals. But right away, Johanna is going to be taken out here in the bottom lane, stepping out a little bit too far. Nice damage focus here from the side of Reborn Knights to start this match off, and that's going to give them the opportunity to push in a little bit here, but at least clear the wave and force Deathbolts to take a step back in the top lane. Nothing too major going on here. Both of them have pretty good wave clear. They have decent damage and decent health regen. So this is just kind of the never-ending bout. We are going to see a slightly quicker rotation for the side of Reborn Knights. They get a favorable spawn in the bottom here. That run distance is actually going to hurt a little bit for Reborn Knights. But we are going to see Vala still chunking this thing down. And Lunara, of course, with that poison damage, doesn't apply quite as quickly. And 10 difference. The catch-up here for the side of Reborn Knights. If they go blow for blow here, they are definitely going to win this. No doubt about it. Both teams level 3. Nice ability to avoid the damage there. And you can see it's getting chunked. A little bit of damage here, but you see part of that bar is green. So it's not going to count as damage until the ticks actually occur. So it is indeed going to be Deathbolts winning there by just a sliver of health. I mean, it wasn't a dramatic win, but they were able to pull it off here. And that's the classic approach. Most teams usually will just go ahead and trade out race and kind of see how their teams stack up in that first set. Makes a lot of sense. You don't want to risk too much. It's really hard to keep a big defense in those first stages of the game when you don't even have your level 4 talents yet. And even if you get kills, the death counters are still so low at this point in the game. But other than that one Johanna kill, not really a big difference here at this stage of the game. A little bit of an XP, tiny bit of an XP lead for the side of Reborn Knights, but nothing major. They do see a nice focus here onto Crafty Devil. That poison damage still continuing to tick, and it's gonna be enough to take down Tyrael. And not even gonna bother turning around to try and get any extra damage out there. But that's gonna be the first kill of the game for the side of Deathbolts. 1-1 at this point. Nice job with that Malfurion root there from Kale, isolating him. And then the follow-up coming in from Ouroboros and Zodiac. Getting some nice solid damage out there. Meanwhile, they do manage to capture this Cosver camp. Going to be pushing it into this top lane, trying to get a little bit of damage out. Continuing to try and stack up that Gathering Storm here is Zodiac on that Falstad, trying to do what he can to get those hits in. And there it is again. That's going to be a huge hit. He got some serious stacks off of that one, ladies and gentlemen. But they are slowly poking away at this Cosver camp, trying to get it down. Ouroboros trying to flank from the bottom, but Glover's having none of that. Going to take a little bit of energy off of it, in fact. But as soon as that shield goes down, going to back up just to soak here at this point. Nice rotation here from the side of Reborn Knights. Got to respect the quick rotation to capture this camp. They're going to give something for the side of Deathbolts to have to answer to. The rotation, very favorable spawn point here yet again for the side of Deathbolts. They have RNG on their side right now. RNG's is smiling down upon them. But you will see the immediate, or fairly immediate collapse. But too little too late as all that damage comes down. They do have this pushing in the top lane though, and the classic spawn across for this first set, which will force these two teams to fight in the mid. But I think right now Reborn Knights are just fine with defending. They're going to see what they can do to try and push them off here. Lunara is actually going to have to rotate to the top to answer to this Shaman camp. And as soon as they see that, we should see Reborn Knights at least trying to push in here 4v5. But so far, they seem content to just go ahead and take a step back and not worry about it too much. I agree, Plague. It's hilarious, whatever it is. Hilarious. We do see Lunara cleaning that up in the top still, but will eventually rotate down here as soon as that is satisfactorily cleaned up. But again, very passive stance here for Reborn Knights, deciding to allow that Shaman camp to be cleaned up and just being content to just sit on their Immortal and wait for somebody to try and step out here. I'm a little bit surprised they're not being a little bit more aggressive with it. Because, quite frankly, Deathbolts can just poke this out for days. That's what their comp does. Bellis is going to go in pretty deep here. Subway Slayer going to have to whirlwind his way out of that situation. And the poking continues here for the side of Deathbolts. They're just slowly chipping away at it with that Lunara poison damage, the chain lightning from Thrall, the hammering from Zodiac on Falstad there. Just throwing it in. Glover stepping out a little bit, but it is actually going to be Crafty Devil that's going in deep with that Zarya shield. Billy Fish getting very low. Crafty Devil going to be the first to fall here on Tyrael. Is chasing after and will just barely get Thrall by the heel of that boot there. We also see Johanna going down in the mid, so it is a 2-for-1 exchange here, favoring Reborn Knights at the moment, but Glover getting very low. Going to have to be careful about that poison damage. Fresk as well is going to get hit by that huge hammering from Zodiac, and that's going to be enough to even the odds here. And all of a sudden, with Vala down, most of the damage for the Immortal over on the side of Reborn Knights has been taken out here and put in the penalty box, and is not going to even be back for another 3 seconds. The eternal fight in the mid continues here. Both teams, again, just kind of poking at each other. But ultimately, it is going to be worse for wear for the side of Reborn Knights, because they just don't have the opportunity to really push them out of poke range at this point. Their health bars are too low, and it will eventually be Deathbolts winning the push of war in the mid, getting themselves a fairly well-shielded Immortal, about 75% shields on this thing. Going to be pushing into a very fresh, very well-structured bottom lane. But they do have the minion wave in on it here. In a 4-man push, they are going to go ahead and send Thrall to answer to Sonya in that top lane. But level 10s are right around the corner. There's a good chance that we could see Deathbolts getting the fort off of this. That will be enough if this minion wave isn't enough to get them level 10 and these precious ultimates. There it is. Right away, we already see them popping in. It is going to be Thornwood Vines along with Mighty Gust. It is going to be Earthquake, pretty predictable heroic there for Thrall up in the top lane. And Malfurion choosing to go with Tranquility in this poke-oriented comp, not wanting to get too deep into that melee-heavy comp over on the side of Reborn Knights. And who could blame him, really? I think that's a pretty good pick. Meanwhile, level 10s have been picked up on the other side as well for Reborn Knights. It's going to be Reign of Vengeance, Sanctification, Expulsion Zone. It is going to be Wrath of the Berserker and Bloodlust coming out. Gonna be an aggro comp here with Sanctification. They're looking to get some work done, and they're thinking about invading down here. But it's gonna be too little, too late yet again here on this rotation. Didn't feel like they had. I don't think they felt like they had the crew to be able to back that up. And without the fort, you don't want to be too overly aggressive, especially just for a simple Khazra camp that you can always just clean up. No big deal. In the top lane, we see the eternal struggle yet again of Thrall versus Sonya. Nobody's going to get a whole lot done in that matchup. But very early early Shaman camp picked up here for the side of Deathbolt. It's going to give them something to answer to, but we do see the rotation to the top lane. Both teams level 11. Not 3-3 on the death count. Very even at this point. It does look like they're going to go ahead and choose to make a fuss out of this top one, though. The Bloodlust comes out with the Sanctification, and they are starting to chew away at Billy Fish's health. He's going to be the first to fall here as this collapse comp up here with this Bloodlust completely annihilated him, but they do only get one out of it. Everybody else on the side of Deathbolts is going to be able to back out of this situation, and they're going to go ahead and send Sonya down to the bottom to answer to that. Meanwhile, Crafty Devil's got to be careful here. He's going to get taken down very quickly, in health at least. It does look like they are going to be able to get him out of that situation with the Eldruins, the shield, and a little bit of healing help from Zodiac. But no Ancestral, no big heals. They're going to have to focus on just the shielding that Crafty Devil can give with that AoE shields. Zarya, of course, does have some shields as well. Rhaegar, of course, the chain lightning, the chain healing. So it's the other orc on the other side that's got the chain lightning. Both teams going to go ahead and race here, and without Tyrael, not too bad as we actually see a nice little lead by Reborn Knights, and they're going to go ahead and split up here. They're going to send Bellos to try and defend. Zodiac also staying down here, trying to stall out with that Gust, trying to give Lunara the time to get those ticks and a stun onto Frusk there. But it's just barely going to be enough in that stall tactic there, as Deathbots is able to pull this one out just barely. You can see there's almost no shield on this Immortal. That stun might have been it, along with that Gust. It was a nice stall tactic there. Yet again, Lunara, especially with Nature's Calling at level 7, does a ton of damage to the Immortal, but you have to give it time for that poison damage to be able to tick away. It's not as fast as the damage you get from this Q build from Vala. The damage from Vala is pretty much instant. As soon as well, I guess there are still the ticks of those different hungering arrows, but it's certainly a lot faster. So meanwhile, in this top lane, the fort already down. Immortal down to about half health here as the front wall goes down, but it does look like the Deathbolts are pushing into this. Level 13s have been picked up. The Gust to push them back, followed up by that shield, but we will see the Sanctification coming out. Bloodlust has been popped. They are looking to go back in. Ouroboros getting very, very low. Lunara is going to have to back out of that situation. And everybody just going in on this. The commitment is real from both of these teams, but all of a sudden Deathbolts decide they don't want any more of this. Johanna goes down, Thrall goes down, Ouroboros in a lot of trouble. Nice route there from Kale to at least try and get them out of the situation, and it will indeed do just that. But the Khazra camp still slowly chipping away at that keep, and it is sneezable at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice defense from Reborn Knights, however. They were able to save the keep. They pushed them off and got a couple of kills. A little bit of XP catch-up there for them, and they're even going to go ahead and pick up this Shaman camp to get a little extra push in this top lane. Yeah, I agree, Fathom. We are seeing... I'm sorry, I probably... Yeah, it's been a while since you threw that comment out, but I agree with you. We've been seeing a lot of these 3 warrior comps, though. A lot of people are not counting Zarya as a warrior. A lot of people think that is something that is a little bit misleading. Zarya plays almost more as a pseudo support, kind of like what you get out of Medivh. You know, he gives a little extra shielding, little extra support to the team while providing, you know, some extra damage, of course. Not necessarily to say that she's at all like Medivh in terms of playing it, but just kind of fulfills a similar role in where you would put Medivh. Not a solo support, but something that can really help a support like maybe a Kharazim or a Bloodlust Rhaegar that you feel like just doesn't give you enough heals. So we are going to see the Immortals spawning kind of opposite of where both these teams wanted. They were positioned for the exact opposite spawn, but we do see nice grouping here from Reborn Knights. They are staying back and thinking about it before they go in deep here. We see the Hammerang come out, but Lunara already starting to chip away at this thing. Reborn Knights realizing that they got to go. They are going to go ahead and collapse in. Yet again, the Sanctification and Bloodlust coming out. Nice cooldowns being used together here, and they're going to start ripping apart this Immortal with the use of that Bloodlust. The stun actually going to hit onto Glover. Might have been calculated with that shield to get a little extra damage, but with that Bloodlust damage, Reborn Knights rips through the first half of that health from the Immortal. But now they don't have these ultimates. Johanna is down, so they could push in, but they're going to send Sonya back to clean up this Khazra camp that's pushing. Crafty Devil getting in a little bit too far. He's going to get that shield, and it's just going to be just enough to save him there from Glover. But they're going to definitely have to back off here until Crafty Devil can get some more help, maybe go tap the well. But the poke is real, yet again, from the side of Deathbolts. They have a nice poking comp. They don't need to really hard engage this. They just need to be able to be in the vicinity and make sure that Reborn Knights don't have the ability to push in. But 5v5, once again, we get to the mid. Johanna has just returned from the land of the dead. Yet again, getting Crafty Devil very low. The Gust is going to come out to isolate a couple off to the side there. The poison damage coming in from Lunara is real, but the triple support sort of comp here with the shields and the extra healing from Rhaegar is helping out a little bit, but ultimately they're still getting very low. Many members getting low, though. It is going to end up being a 3-for-1 trade. They lose Sonya, but they get Falstad, Thrall, and Johanna, and that's a trade that I'm going to take every time if I'm Reborn Knights here. They are going to go ahead and go after this Immortal. Kale and Ouroboros, the only ones left to try and defend this thing. They are going to try and throw some damage out, but Expulsion Zone is going to cut off Ouroboros. Lunara goes down. Very, very nice Expulsion Zone there from Glover, making the plays here in the middle of this game. That is going to leave them without Lunara for the next 30 seconds while this Immortal is spawning. As they start to push out these lanes, try and get things evened up a little bit. Level 16 here for both teams. This was something that I feel like Reborn Knights really needed. You look at the structures, they were really on the back leg here. This is going to give them a little bit of breathing room and a chance to really get back into this game. I feel like their comp does scale well. I feel like it gets a little bit better later on in the game. And this Noir, this is Division 2. But it does look like at this point they are going to get here in time to be able to support this. Meanwhile, Falstad is not quite... Falstad is actually able to get the keep, I should say. Going ahead and flying to the top lane. We'll go ahead and get that done before making his way back and being back to aid in the defense. But the Mortal here is on the front wall, but almost out of health. It does look like Reborn Knights are going to try and push into this. The Expulsion Zone to try and keep the members of Deathbots off of that Immortal. But as soon as the Immortal goes down, they are hightailing it out at this point. No Expulsion Zone. All the other heroics are up here, but they don't want to make a big deal out of it right at the moment. Gust is down, but it does look like they're going to go ahead and try and capture this. Holy Ground is available for Crafty Devil, and he is going to go in on it. But Holy Ground used a little bit out of the fight. That is going to prevent them from being able to get the camp. Couldn't get in on it. That's where Crafty Devil's really got to put that on the point. You can pop Sanctification. You can pop Bloodlust there with that. But just using it off to the side there, trying to cut off the escape route. But they had another way around that pillar. Meanwhile, the fight is not over yet. They are collapsing in here onto Bellis, getting very low, and he's going to be taken down. Nice spear hit to get that finishing kill there from Subway Slayer. And now all of a sudden, the fight's still breaking out. They're also going to get Thrall, but many members getting very low here. The Sanctification is going to be popped. The Gust going into the Sanctified team, which is going to do a whole lot of nothing. But they will be able to back out here after getting two. Yet again, isolating and killing Johanna and Thrall. It's going to earn them the camp here in the bottom lane. But somebody's got to answer this top push. Yikes, we got a couple of cannons, or catapults coming in here. So, again, they're a little bit behind in the structure game, which is constantly keeping them somewhat on the back foot here for the side of Reborn Knights. But they keep winning these team fights. It keeps giving them an opportunity to keep this game alive and keep it going. Favorable spawn point here for the side of Deathbolts as they can go ahead and collapse onto this Immortal. But they didn't have Thrall yet available. So I guess actually a little bit more of a favorable spawn for Reborn Knights right after picking up that Shaman camp. It's going to allow that Shaman camp to push in the top. They won't have to worry as much about those catapults in that top lane constantly pushing. But it does look like they're going to look to go offensive here. They have everything but Sanctification up at this point. But they are going to send Lunara down to get started on that Immortal. But as the engagement starts to happen, Ouroboros is going to come back up on that Lunara. Crafty Devil trying to look at maybe having a cutoff point, but the Gust is going to push them all back into the corner. From Zodiac there is gonna at least stall them for the moment, but Immortals definitely still favoring Reborn Knights here. Yet again, they're gonna send Lunara up to clean up that camp so it doesn't get any work done while this poking is going back and forth. Sanctification comes down just in time to save the team who had just been stunned by the Immortal, but the Bloodlust coming out as well. They are yet again gonna get Thrall and Johanna. That collapsing onto that melee is real, and at this point they gotta go, man. They have level 20. They have everything on their side. They have a 2-man advantage on this top lane with this over half shielded Immortal. This is Reborn Knight's moment to be able to come back in this game where structurally they've been behind the whole time. Not on level, not on kills, certainly. They've definitely been dominating the kill game 15-14, 15-4, I should say. But structure-wise, they just haven't been able to get a whole lot of work done until these last two Immortal pushes. So here, they need to get a keep out of this. They have their Storm talents, and they are pushing in. It looks like that's what they're going for here, but they are starting to just poke at it here. Thrall and Johanna just now coming back, just being available as tools to utilize in this defense. And here they come. They do have all the tools available other than Tranquility on the Malfurion. But again, you see kind of a passive stance back here. They're just looking to poke at it at this point. Not being overly aggressive, but they got those level 20s. They should be able to win this even without the use of their heroics. They do have Bloodlust coming up right now, and they do get the keep. So that looks like all they were looking for here. They do get the keep. It's going to even out that top lane, but in the bottom, do have a lot of stuff stacking up into that bottom keep. Getting some solid damage out. They're going to send Sonya back to answer to it at least. But they do lose a little bit in that bottom lane. Right away, a quick rotation here from the side of Deathbots to get that bottom camp pushing. And both teams just going to go ahead and rotate up. Again, if I'm Reborn Knights, I'm looking to force a fight here pre-20. Deathbots still about half a level away, but they're going to choose to play the passive game here. Play the clear up the camps game. And I've been seeing a little bit of a push here, but probably not going too far. This is probably not a push into the core, if I had to guess, but they're looking for that wave clear. And yeah, again, both teams rotating around passively, not looking to force a fight here. First game of the season. Everybody still a little bit rusty in the chair league scene. Nobody wanting to be overly aggressive and lose this on a end of the game throw. Level 20 is going to be picked up here for the side of Deathbots with this bottom wave clear. Also, favorable wave clear. Good to know, Plague. We'll pick you up on the next one for sure, buddy. As soon as this one is over, we got another match scheduled to start in 7 minutes. But as you can see, this one is going nice and long, and they're going to go ahead and time this to sync up right with the start of that Immortal. Going to be pushing out in that top lane at least, but also this camp pushing in the bottom. Going to threaten that bottom keep for Reborn Knights. So they yet again they gotta send Sonya to pick that up, and as soon as Deathbolt sees that, they're taking advantage. They're getting a little bit more aggressive with the poke on this Immortal. And there's not really a whole lot the Reborn Knights can do about it without Sonya here. They are going to go ahead and continue. Or they're going to go ahead and bring her up so they can start to engage here. Subway Slayer going to hit that spear out onto Zodiac as they attempt to get into the back here. Looking for a place to, I think, to throw this Sanctification and Bloodlust combo yet again, but not really finding it here is Crafty Devil. Maybe trying to find a way to isolate somebody, but this keep in the bottom lane, that Khazra camp still slowly working its way in, trying to get that done, but Subway Slayer does back up. But this is an interesting engagement. Without Sonya, it may not be advisable here. The Sanctification is going to come down just in time to save them. Billy Fish getting low, and he's going to get blown up from that combo with the Bloodlust. Kale also in a lot of trouble. Crafty Devil coming after him. The Rain of Vengeance not quite there to be able to knock him down. They do successfully save that bottom keep for now, and they're going to go ahead and start on the Immortal after getting those 2 picks. Now we see Bellius getting very low here. Indestructible has been popped. It's going to have to get out of that situation. Kale's heals doing just enough to be able to get that done. But ultimately, we do see the half health procced from Reborn Knights here as they get just a slight lead on this. And they're going to be able to just back up and start laying damage into this with that Q build Vala. It just completely chunks it, absolutely wrecking it. And that's going to be yet another Immortal, 3 in a row now. Or is it 4? I think I've lost count for the side of Reborn Knights. Going to be going in this bottom lane. Only that bottom keep left. So, and again, you know, it's the team fighting capability. we see from this Bloodlust comp. Sanctification up in 25, Bloodlust up in 10 at this point. So they could do it again. They won't have Sanctification right away, but it'll be up just a little bit after. They reach a Wrath also up, so they have pretty much all the tools available here. Do the side of Reborn Knights to push in with this half-shielded Immortal that's going to be going straight onto the keep. Nothing in its way at this point. Already starting to chip away at it, and it is chunking that thing with every hit. Crafty Devil waiting to go in, has Sanctification available, and the Gust is going to forestall them a little bit to give them a little more damage on this Immortal. But the keep is down here. The only question is whether or not Reborn Knights want to go in and try and finish the game here. They're definitely contemplating it. Crafty Devil looking for it is going to go ahead and throw down that Holy Ground. And Sanctification soon coming after. I'm sure the Bloodlust is popped. Haven't seen the Sanctification come out yet, but they don't really need it. They get the pick on Thrall. There's the Sanctification as the shields are down, the health is down on the core, and that is going to be GG. Reborn Knights picking their spots, poking at the right spots, and able to pull out the win there in the first game of the season here in Chair League Division 2 on Battlefield of Eternity. It was a very patient game from Reborn Knights. They didn't overextend. They didn't try too hard to win. You know, I felt like they could have, with the comp they had, been a little bit more aggressive in certain moments, particularly in the mid. You know, you see Lunara rotate up and out to try and defend a lane. You know, try and defend that Shaman camp. They had several opportunities there. You know, that's when you push in with your melee comp. That's when you really got to go. Try to punish your opponents for getting in there and sending somebody away and trying to defend as a 4-man. That's when you can win it. But they just annihilated Billy Fish and Bellas on that front line. 7 and 8 deaths. You can see the red. That's a lot of the deaths of this match. There's not a whole lot they could do. They would get collapsed on with that combination of Wrath of the Berserker, Reign of Vengeance, Sanctification, and Bloodlust. And meanwhile, they had Zarya with that expulsion zone being able to zone the rest of the team away. They would just blow up the melee. And then, you know, what can Falstad, Lunara, and Malfurion really do about it? You know, they have to back up. They have to concede whatever is going on. They can't get any response kills. And it's just a rough day. So a great game coming out from both of these teams. Reborn Knights picking up the win here over Deathbots. And we'd be happy to see these teams back again next week for more Chair League. We got another match coming up.